everyone. We had quite. Am I still blurry or am I clear now? I went back to being blurry, right?
Yeah, you're a little blurry.
Okay, not much we can do. We'll try to fix it after the break. I was just clear just a few minutes ago, but anyways, today we have our producer, Robert. He's the one who does all the podcast episodes on, and we have a lot of fun, and we talk about liberal labor policy. I don't know why I'm blurry. I tried fixing it, but I don't know what to do. And let's see. Oh, Nicaragua officially unrecognized Taiwan as a country and broke off all diplomatic relationships. That means they're not afraid of getting cooed. Anything else we need to discuss? Oh yeah, some lady on Twitter thinks that Nancy Reagan is in heaven. No, she's not. Yeah, and let's see. Julian Assange had a stroke, and they're probably gonna try to exit. So he lost his appeals hearing for extradition to the U.S., even though he has actually never set foot in the U.S. and never committed a crime in the U.S. And publishing materials is not a crime that he received. So it's just nonsense. But we all know that those who expose war crimes always get more time in prison than those who commit war crimes. And that is life. So with that, let's watch the video, and I'll try to unblur myself for the for when I read Nadezhda's reminiscences of Lenin. Привет, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Late Nights with Lenin. Today we have my infamous producer who produces all the podcast episodes, and that's why they're of such high sound quality. We have Robert Grannis. He is a sound man. He loves music. I don't know what else to say. How are you doing, Robert?
Hello. Thank you for having me on. Haven't seen you in a while. This is a sound booth that I'm trying to get prepped for the show, so hopefully we're gonna get here sometime soon.
Yeah, on Monday I'm going to start making it into like a beautiful studio with a lot of blue screen or green screen. The thing is that you have to have a blue screen. Well, I'll show you. It has to have a flat main, either white screen or blue screen. But I say blue because white means it gets dirty. And then you have to have like a green screen for people who need to do green screen stuff. So, and I know I have all the nice lights. So we're as soon as I finish my big project, hopefully soon, inshallah, I'll be there.
Nice.
So I don't know where to begin. Let's see. Where do we begin? Well, okay. So how's Ozzy doing?
Oh, he's great. He's working on making his own like role playing games and stuff like that lately. He's gotten really into this like storyteller group of dice that they roll out, and they give you like 9 symbols, and you use the symbols in the story, like a little bridge, a question mark, and happy face. So that like it just kind of teaches a kid to go through a story. And now he wanted to turn it into a role-playing game, so he's introduced dice and laid it out on this little Magnetiles board game style set. And he's got his little Minecraft figurines that he's using to like go through, and they have to solve different puzzles based on where the dice laid out and stuff like that. So
I should get the role-playing dice for my niece. Thank you. Text it to me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Yeah, this is
that's a good idea.
Storyteller set. Yeah, he's getting more into like card games, board games, and that type of thing. And I'm just doing everything I can to steer him away from Monopoly because that game drives me insane.
No, Monopoly is an anti-capitalist game. It was created by a socialist, and then Hasbro bought it. But it was definitely to show you that the idea was that once you establish like a monopoly, no matter what you do, you're screwed. So it's a very anti-capitalist game.
aside from that, it goes on forever. And also I also have the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version of it. So it's like it changed out how the cards and all of that work, and like you're buying pizza slices and pizza boxes instead of houses and property, and it's like, I don't know, whatever.
Okay, well, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That doesn't sound cool. Like the original Monopoly was very. Oh, speaking of anti-capitalist games, Jacobin is trying to successfully crowdsource this like $60,000. Have you heard about it?
$60,000 each game.
No. Let me figure it out. Like,
the $60,000 is the GoFundMe goal or something on it?
No,
Okay.
they completed that, but it's like the dumbest. Like it's about the. Let me just figure it out. I know I tweeted something stupid about it.
Well, at least they figured out how to waste time and money. So I
wish I could get that money. And like I'm a real socialist, and I don't praise whatever. Like, oh god. Noam Chomsky apparently turned 93 this week. Oh my god! Here it is. We have to look at this. Holy crap! They got $168,000 for this game. Okay, Jenna, let's put this on.
I mean, but they're raising money now. They're not even going to be able to get that in time for Christmas. You know,
look at this. Play the video. It's so. I don't know what to say. Just play a video.
Is there a Posadist element? Is that why they're going with the dolphin character in the front?
Just play the video. It's just supposed to be this anti-capitalist game. It's really stupid. It's called Class War, and you have to pay $70 to be a Class War backer. And you're okay. So it's basically you're a collective, a socialist, a worker, or a capitalist, and then it's a lot like it's really a dumb idea. It's basically a lot like it's like a prisoner's dilemma, like gamified, and everyone knows what the answer is. Okay, go for it.
Class War is a two-player game where you play as either capitalists or workers, contending for dominance in the workplace and government. Capitalists improve their businesses and hire lackeys. Workers organize and try to raise their wages. Each side plays cards and rolls dice to gain an advantage and win a greater slice of the economic pie. Victory comes when you use your economic and political power to enact your demands into law. Capitalists crush the rising wave of popular discontent and entrench their positions as masters of society? Or will the workers triumph over the forces of capital and make society more equal and just? We're really excited for you guys to play Class War. Right now, we only have this prototype. In order to get it out to more people, we're going to need some additional funds. So that's why today we're asking you to support the project. By donating just a few bucks on Kickstarter, you'll be able to follow along with the game's progress. For a few more bucks, you'll be able to get your hands on the game before all those schmucks down at Target. And for a little bit more, you'll be able to help out all of Jacobin's future endeavors. So please consider donating today. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't like what age group is gonna like what are they trying to get? Are they just trying to get it for like people in their 20s and 30s?
What would people in 20s and 30s?
I don't know. I just like I don't know. I don't see the kid aspect.
Yeah,
of that.
If it's people in 20s and 30s, I don't want to play this game because this is called life to me.
It's called life, but at least maybe Jacobin readers will, I don't know, spend less time with each other, or I don't know, maybe like, you know, just through the elements of the game, and maybe stop I don't know, whatever.
Okay, and on top of it, it's like at the end, their dream is not like a revolution. It's still like a social enact demands within this current system, blah, blah, blah.
That reminds me of people critiquing the Britney Spears dance-off game for like PlayStation. The best you can ever do is becoming her backup dancer.
That's still...
Just stop aiming low with your games, and maybe it'll be more of an appeal. Like
I don't know.
Superheroes on the top or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I just don't. I just think it's. Jacobin annoys me for like billions of reasons, but this one, I'm like, why are you guys getting funded? And then that like the establishment coalesces around its own, and they're not the establishment, but every liberal professor idiot who kind of wants to be like a little edgy funds Jacobin, and then eventually. We could do so much more with that money, but oh well. I guess we have to use the Lenin method.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's keeping those people off the street, so whatever.
Okay,
grabbing whatever bag they can at this point. Go ahead. I don't know.
So we're gonna have to use the Lenin method, which we won't, which is illegal, so we won't really on fundraising.
Put that on YouTube.
Yeah. So let's see. What do you want to discuss about? Okay, Lenin has written about every topic, including margarine, but we've already read his piece on margarine. So, like, is there like a topic that you want to discuss? Or should I just pick a random piece?
You could probably just pick a random one. I don't know. I mean, I've just had like, it's just been a weird couple of weeks, and I've kind of also just dropped off reading news. Good. Because I deleted my Twitter account, and it's like, okay. And I just like tried to glance at headlines last night, and I was just like trying to figure out what was going on in the world.
Nothing.
And, well, yeah, no, definitely nothing. And like the top thing was like the debt ceiling getting raised again.
That's
and I feel
nonsense.
like that's happening. No, it's nonsense. And I also feel like it's the same story I've seen like 16 times in the last like 2 years or something. It's like mind numbing to keep seeing that all the time. I don't know.
Exactly.
Same argument, same like issue, same personalities even, because like all of those fossils have been there forever. And like, I don't know, but so,
Yeah. Okay. In that case, there's so much, let's see, let's do... Have we done a liberal labor manifesto where he rips apart? Yes. Have we done that, Janet?
I don't think so. Give me 1 second, though. So it's called Liberal Labor?
A Liberal Labor Party Manifesto.
Okay. Not seeing it.
Okay. So let's just start. There are many parts to it, but we'll just start with part 1 and see how long it goes. Does that work for you, Robert?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, I'm going to
business owner. I want to hear what Lenin's got to say.
Well, we're going to hear
relations specifically today
through your voice.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
A Liberal Labor Party Manifesto by Vladimir Ilyich Lenin. The above would be a fit title for N. R. Rykov's article in Nasha Zarya number 9 to 10. Painful though it is for Marxists to lose in the person of... Sorry,
it's okay, just call him NR because it's like Lenin's trying to be hiding his identity.
I gotcha. All right. Painful though it is for Marxists to lose in the person of NR, a man who, in the years when the movement was on the upgraded when the movement was on the upgrade, served the Workers' Party faithfully and energetically, the cause must take precedence over all personal or factional considerations and over all recollections, however pleasant. The interests of the cause compel us to admit that thanks to the straightforwardness, clarity, and completeness of its views, the manifesto of this new liquidator serves a very useful purpose. NR enables and compels us to pose the extremely important and cardinal question of two parties, irrespective of any material relating to the conflict, and to do so on a purely ideological basis, largely outside even the division into Bolsheviks and Mensheviks. After Arkov's article, liquidationism can no longer be discussed as formally, for he has definitely raised the question to a higher plane. Furthermore, after NR's article, liquidationism cannot be merely discussed, for what we have before us is the most comprehensive plan imaginable of immediate practical action.
Okay.
Fix the margins on this. This is hard to read.
So, yeah, basically this guy, Nasha Zarya, I believe that, no, Borba was Trotsky's rag. Nasha Zarya was some other Menshevik's rag. Mm-hmm. And so liquidationism is kind of like, I've explained this to many people, but I'll do it again. You know how when people start off with Congress, they're like, Medicare for all. And then they're like, afford universal access to health care for all and affordable access to health care and opportunity for affordable access to health care. Like that is liquidationism, where you water down what you used to stand for to appease power, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're down to, I think, about getting a free aspirin, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a rough scene.
And Lenin thinks this is very important to fight against because he's right. Like, you need to kick out all the liquidationist members of the party if they're in like the Congress or whatever, because you can't water down anything. Okay, let's go.
Then Karov begins with an exposition of the principal objective task in Russia. He then passes on to an appraisal of the revolution, after which he analyzes the present situation and in this connection discusses every class in clear and precise terms, and winds up with a quite explicit description of the entire nature of the new Open Political Workers Association, which he says must be formed and actually put into effect without delay.
Hold on. Let me quickly put some historical context. Under the Tsar, anything that wasn't like a Zubotov, which is a police union, like a fake union controlled by him, was illegal. And then 1905 happened with Bloody Sunday, and the Tsar was forced to make some concessions. And now they allegedly in the Duma legalized Open Workers Association. And obviously Lenin is right not to, because that turns workers into sitting ducks to be arrested or shot by the Tsar. So
Lenin, it's more a convenient list than an organization like, challenging the power of the Tsar.
Exactly. And so Lenin's like right to like not, but Arkov was like, he says it must be formed and actually put into effect without delay. And Lenin's like, are you kidding me? You must be kidding me. Okay.
In short, Arkov begins at the very beginning and by consecutive stages arrives at the very end, as is to be expected of anyone who has any realization of the serious political responsibility he bears for his words and deeds. And it must be said in fairness to Arkov that from beginning to end, he most consistently substitutes liberalism for Marxism.
Jacob, I don't know why I thought of Jacobin when I was like, somehow I was like thinking of Jacobin and I was like, I picked this article. No coincidence, right?
Yeah, they definitely don't substitute liberalism for Marxism. That could be a good byline for them, actually.
Yeah. I don't know which one, I get more shocked at, the Kautsky stuff. Like, I don't get it. No one who does not read Lenin knows who Kautsky is. And Kautsky is the one person you do not imitate. But they've written 30 articles about Kautsky. And they're not even trolling because I asked the author and he's utterly clueless. He was like, yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah, history praises losers sometimes. It's just like
no one knows who Kautsky is unless you read Lenin, or for some odd reason you're spending a lot of effort trying to find some loser, whatever. But yeah, let's continue.
Yeah, well, he just kind of works maybe for a present day avatar for the left in a little bit more of a realistic
His
sense
wife
than Lenin
died
does.
in a concentration camp. He died penniless.
Yeah.
That's considered a loser.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Take the starting point of his arguments. He regards it as absolutely beyond doubt or dispute that the principal objective task in Russia at present is the completion of the change from grossly predatory semi-feudal economic practices to civilized capitalism. That phrase is really cursed. Did Arkhov actually write the word civilized capitalism?
Yeah. I can open up after we're done, I can open up the Nasha Zarya and see exactly the word he used.
I'm just depressed now. Okay.
The fact that nothing changes in 100 years.
God. In his opinion, it is debatable whether Russia has reached a position in which, although the possibility of social upheavals is not excluded, these upheavals aren't indispensable or inevitable in the near future. We consider it to be absolutely beyond doubt or dispute that this is a purely liberal way of presenting the question. The liberals confine themselves to the question of whether we are going to have a civilized capitalism or not, whether there are going to be upheavals or not.
Coffee. I was like, I think he must have overheard me. Oh my God. I was like, coffee.
No worries.
Okay, can you repeat what was the last line you read?
Top of this paragraph? Yeah, let's go from there. I think that's where he popped up. Anyway, but we consider it to be absolutely beyond doubt or dispute that this is a purely liberal way of presenting the question. The liberals confine themselves to the question of whether we are going to have a civilized capitalism or not, whether there are going to be upheavals or not. The Marxist refuses to confine himself to this. He demands an analysis that will show which classes or strata of classes in the bourgeois society that is emancipating itself are pursuing this or that definite line in this emancipation. What, for example, are the political forms of the so-called civilized capitalism which they are creating? I'm trying to get through this without laughing.
No, you can't. Lenin always makes you laugh.
I know.
Lenin's supposed
like
to
Arkhov is just with his that phrase.
Okay, I can open up the Nasha Zarya. Okay. Oh, okay. It refers to N. Rozhnikov's article, The Present Situation from Nasha Zarya. Okay. I guess he's dead, so we don't have to prevent him from getting doxxed. Okay.
or coming after us. Both in times of upheaval and during their undoubted absence, Marxists pursue a line different in principle from liberalism, that of creating truly democratic ways of life, not just civilized ways in general. We are all striving for civilized capitalism, says the liberals, posing as a party that stands above classes. We Marxists, however, tell the workers and Democrats that our understanding of the term civilization differs from that of the liberals.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I feel so spoiled. My roommate is so sweet. He also gave me avocado sandwiches. Avocado toast, which is why I can't afford to. Is that why I can't afford
it's your fault. Yeah, no. If you had saved the $250 on that avocado and put it into the stock market, you'd be in much worse debt. you would owe $50 instead of having spent $250. And
okay.
I think that's how math works, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least the market. Arkhov presents us with an even more vivid and typically professorial distortion of Marxism when he criticizes the superficial observers who think that our revolution has failed. The weak-nerved intelligentsia as a whole, says Arkhov, has always and everywhere indulged in sniveling and whining, followed by moral prostration, renegacy, and mysticism. The thoughtful observer, on the other hand, knows that the raging of reaction often expresses profound social change, that new social groups and forces take shape and mature in the epoch of reaction. Thus reasons Arkhov. In presenting the question of renegacy, I want to say regeneracy, but I'm just looking at the word wrong. Okay. In presenting the question of renegacy, he has managed to display so much Philistinism, even though accompanied by learned verbiage, that no trace is left of the connection between the counter-revolutionary sentiments in Russia and the position and interests of definite classes. Not a single Vecchi contributor, that is, the most rabid counter-revolutionary liberal, will dispute the fact that new forces are maturing in the period of reaction. Not a single contributor to the liquidationist 5-volume publication, which the best of the Mensheviks turned away from, will refuse to subscribe to this. The actual face and the class character of our counter-revolutionary have vanished from the arguments of our historian, and only hackneyed and hollowed phrases remain about some intellectuals being weak-nerved, while others are thoughtful observers. Arkhov failed to take notice of a question of the utmost importance to a Marxist, namely, how our revolution demonstrated the various methods of action and the various aspirations of the different classes, and why this has given rise to a renegade attitude towards the struggle for civilization on the part of the other bourgeois classes.
But he's talking about the 1905 revolution, and yes. Go ahead.
So yeah, Arkhov is calling all the people in the 1905 revolution renegades.
Yeah, well, basically, he's calling the methods of the Russian Social Democratic Party that essentially get them the Duma and like a constitutional monarchy where the constitution was never written. The renegades, while the bourgeoisie strive towards civilization, but it's funny because it's still the same attitude after the 1917 revolution, where they act like the Soviets are like some sort of evil, uncivilized people, and that the bourgeoisie, who are fascists, are civilized, and they still do that with China today, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, yeah.
Any winning method is criticized for being renegades and uncivilized.
Yeah. Okay. As opposed to civilization, which is just liquidationism to Lenin here. Okay. I think I'm catching on. Let us turn to the main issue. Arkhov's appraisal of the present situation based on an estimate of the position of all the classes. He begins with the representatives of our big landowning class, of whom he says, not so long ago, the bulk of them were real feudal landlords, typical landed aristocrats. At present, only a few of these last Mohicans have survived. This small handful is still grouped around Perushkovich and Markov II, and are impotently spluttering the venom of despair. The majority of our big landowners, noblemen and commoners, who are represented in the Duma by the nationalists and the right Octoberists, are gradually and steadily being converted into an agricultural bourgeoisie.
Okay, so no, their lands aren't, just because they're in the Duma doesn't mean their lands have magically vanished and they don't have serfs. So this is just pure nonsense, but let's go on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting hung up on the phrase last Mohicans. I'm curious if that's like translated to make it more anglicized for a phrase that we would understand, whether he was like referring to, I don't know, indigenous Russians, or whether I'm just wondering if Arkhov is writing for like U.S. people to read this and appeal to that audience. I just feel like if he's not writing to Russians, why is he writing this? Okay.
I think it could be a translation thingy, but I don't have time to, it's going to take me a long time to check the translation of old Russian, but I can answer it tomorrow for the show.
Sure.
But there is a cute, there's like a really cute anecdote about Lenin when he was 8. It was written by his brother Dmitry. So when Lenin was 8, somebody got him a book about the indigenous people, about the Cherokee and the Trail of Tears. And then he like started role playing where he was the Cherokee, and he told his brother that the white man is coming to catch us all, and that in order to get him strength, he needs to go get him like some chocolates or something from the kitchen. But then he warned his brother, beware of the white man. Do not trust him for anything. And I thought it was so cute that Lenin knew that the white man was evil at age 7.
Though he was pretending to be Cherokee. He at least outgrew that, unlike Elizabeth Warren.
So. I know, but age 8.
I know. No, I'm saying he outgrew it.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, sorry. I don't know why that popped into my head.
No, he was. But he was role playing and he was 8. And it's like, and at his time, like the fact that he was like talking about how the white man was so evil was like so adorable.
No, he was based from birth. All right. So such is Arkov's appraisal of the situation. It is obvious that this appraisal is a mockery of reality. In actual fact, the handful grouped around Prushkevich and Markov II are not powerless, but all powerful. It is precisely their power and their revenue that the present social and political institutions of Russia protect. It is their will that prevails in the last analysis. It is they who constitute the element determining the entire line of activity and the entire character of the so-called bureaucracy from top to bottom. All this is so generally known, the actual domination in Russia by this very handful is so striking and common, that it requires a truly boundless liberal self-delusion to forget it. Arkov's truly boundless liberal self-delusion to forget it. That's a good one.
This is what I feel like every time I see a liberal on Twitter, a truly boundless liberal self-delusion to forget it. I'm going to highlight this and use this as an insult in the future.
Yeah, I just read like Matt Iglesias' profile.
Oh God, I don't want to know.
Arkov's error is first in ridiculously exaggerating the conversion of feudal economy into bourgeois economy. And secondly, in forgetting a trifle, just the sort of trifle that distinguishes a Marxist from a liberal, namely the intricacy and spasmodic nature of the process of adaptation of the political superstructure to economic transformation. To explain these two errors of Arkov's, it is sufficient to cite the example of Prussia, where to this day, despite the considerably higher level of development of capitalism in general, and of the conversion of the old landowning economy into bourgeois economy in particular, the Oldenburgs and the Heidebrands are still omnipotent and control state power, their social substance permeating, as it were, the entire Prussian monarchy, the entire Prussian bureaucracy. To this day, 63 years after 1848, and despite the unprecedentedly rapid development of capitalism, the law governing the Landtag elections in Prussia is still so framed as to ensure the domination of the Prussian Prushkeviches. Yet for Russia, 6 years after 1905, Arkov paints an Arcadian ideal of the powerlessness of the Prushkeviches.
He's right. I mean, Lenin's right. I don't know what Arcadian means. So Arcadian. Okay, now it's saying chasta. My dictionary is now translating it to Russian. Okay, somebody else look it up because my dictionary can't. Somehow is like translating as opposed to.
Just the word Arcadian, or you need
Arcadian. I don't know what it means.
A native of Arcadia, relating to Arcadia.
What is Arcadia?
It's sorry. It's Arcadia is a Greek word, refers to a vision of pastoralism and harmony with nature. Arcadia is a poetic term associated with bountiful natural splendor and harmony. The garden is often inhabited by shepherds.
Okay.
So just saying, I guess, utopia there.
Yeah. So sometimes Lenin has the perfect words. I did not know this word gendarme existed, but gendarme is the police that basically shoots, wages a war on its civilian population. Mm-hmm. And that's the perfect word for our police. We should start calling them the gendarme.
Gendarme.
Or gendarme. I don't know how to pronounce it. Actually, don't ever listen to me on pronunciation.
Is that the difference between plural and singular, or masculine and feminine in E and A at the end?
I don't speak French, and somebody should look up how to pronounce this word again.
Okay. He's using a French term.
G-E-N-D, gendar. G-E-N-D-A-R-M-E. I don't know how to pronounce it.
It should be gendarme.
It's gendarme. Okay.
Gendarme. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Gendarme. All right. Ooh, it's a good one.
Okay.
Excuse me. Sorry. All right. The point is that painting an Arcadian ideal about the steady conversion of the Prushkeviches and the triumph of a quite modern bourgeois progressivism is the main theme of all of Arkov's reflections. Take his ideas on present-day agrarian policy. There is no more striking and widespread illustration of the conversion of feudal economy into bourgeois economy than this policy, declares Arkov. The system of splitting farms into strips isolated from each other is being abolished, and the elimination of land hunger in 20 agricultural gubernias. Yeah,
they're like states.
Okay. 20 agricultural gubernias in the Black Earth Belt presents no difficulties to speak of. It constitutes one of the urgentest tasks of the day, and apparently it will be settled by a compromise among various groups of the bourgeoisie. This anticipated inevitable compromise in the agrarian question already has a number of precedents. Just trust the liberals. Great. Good. Yeah. Here you have a complete sample of Arkov's method of political reasoning. He begins by eliminating the extremes without any supporting data, merely because of his liberal complacency. Then he goes on to declare that a compromise among the various groups of the bourgeoisie is not difficult and is likely. Then he winds up by saying that such a compromise is inevitable. By this method, one could prove that upheavals were neither likely nor indispensable in France in 1788 and in China in 1910. To be sure, a compromise among the various groups of the bourgeoisie present no difficulties if we assume that Markov II has been eliminated not only in Arkov's complacent imagination. But to assume this would mean adopting the standpoint of the liberal who is afraid to dispense with the Markovs and who think that everybody will always share his fear.
Yeah.
So you just got to have faith.
Yeah. And the liberals accuse Marxists of being utopianists. Okay, let's read the last paragraph.
Yeah, just take a wish, put on a fairy's wings, and let it fly. All right. To be sure, a compromise would be inevitable if there were no Markovs. And the second if, we assume that the workers and the peasants who are being ruined are politically sound asleep. But then again, would not such an assumption, the assumption of the second condition, mean accepting the liberals' wish as reality?
Exactly. That the workers and peasants are what do you? And it's funny because nowadays it's liberals' wishes are always presented as all of reality in all of American media, and no one else exists. So I don't know how much they've succeeded in creating that reality. But
I mean, just put on the blinders and people can't even imagine something outside of, two very distorted, overmodulated poles, you just have this conversation that's limited the bandwidth of everyone's imagination.
Yeah.
What's possible. And I mean, just the construction of the bourgeois class around this open workers' party. What was that called?
Yeah, no. It was an open organization. Yeah. It was like the workers can have an open legal organization.
Yeah, and Arcov throughout is just saying, like, along with the whittling down of that, you whittle down like the workers' ability and agency and autonomy, and you expand the bourgeois class of the political administrators, the technocrats. I mean, saying that, like, well, we can administrate the land redistribution and the strips of land and figure out agriculture from some office, 2,000 miles away, and and Lenin rightly says, the people would have to be asleep for them to side with that or allow this to happen.
Exactly.
I think that's what I got from
No, he's exactly saying that. But what I was thinking, which I just lost my train of thought, something about liberals and bourgeoisie. Oh yeah, the fact that they just kind of thrill for compromises without having the workers, like, and like Markov is kind of like a Mitch McConnell kind of type of obstructor. Mm-hmm. So it's like the liberals never, like how the liberals always find some dumb excuse to like always follow the will of the bourgeoisie, the parliamentarian, Joe Lieberman, whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the parliamentarian is such an absurd, like, figure.
Lie.
Well, it's the most, like, no, you guys just made that up like 3 weeks ago. That didn't exist. But then again, it has to have existed because it's such a stupid and useless throw in the joke, stick in the wheels of your bicycle kind of thing that, like, if it didn't exist prior, of course the liberals would have had to make it up. It just they were begging for that existence.
The parliamentarian all the time. Now the parliamentarian cannot be ignored like normal times.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I know. Well, we don't live in normal times. We live in the most important moment ever, and none of this has ever happened before, and surely the course that we're on is the best possible course.
And you have to trust the Democrats, and they're totally not...
Because otherwise they're going to take away Roe v. Wade, or they're going to take away, if they're going to take away anything, they will still... The Democrats are not an obstacle to taking them away. For sure. Yeah.
How do people don't even understand. Yeah, the Democrats will not pose an obstacle. Just like how the Social Democrats clapped Deutschland über alles in 1931. Like, these Democratic parties are more like the centrist party. So they're probably hand the keys to the kingdom in a secret meeting with von Papen. But that's another story. I'm getting too specific with my analogy.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. No, they're centrists, and that they are central to the creation of fascism.
Exactly. And I'm just that's why I check out on the inanities of American domestic parliamentarianism, because really none of it matters, because but I do keep abreast on foreign stuff, like when the U.S. is trying to why is the U.S. trying to do a color revolution in Thailand now? Strange. Kind of things like that. That I keep in touch. I feel like the domestic inanities is so pointless and boring, and no one knows really. It's like almost having actually a legalized union like the AFL-CIO, all they've done is, besides the CIA stuff, they've just disarmed, the workers are not even, it's they just have not taught them the skills to fight, right?
Yeah, and kind of, obstructing workers being at the table directly, it's
exactly
it's another creation of some bureaucracy to just manage the workers and then, sell away their interests at the bargaining table. I don't know. Yep. Anyway, but I was thinking that instead of parliamentarian, there should be a liquidationitarian.
Oh, that would be a brilliant, yes.
And I'm pretty sure we could probably get a vote on it. Yeah. And probably win way quicker with that. But just name the role what it is. It's okay, we got to just wheel this random cynic creation out just to like whittle it down at the end, just make sure can't even go an inch forward.
Are you okay? So he has a lot of audio books, but I don't know whether I recommend checking them out or not.
Yeah, it's funny that you invited me on this, and I'm essentially doing exactly what I have to do. I've been doing actually, I should probably just read the book that I've been reading. Big Girls Love Big Demons.
Oh God!
and it actually does a shout out to Lenin and Russia in it, because it's this archaeologist hooking up with like a fallen demon guy, and you might need to cut all of this, but they're following the Hope Diamond, and I guess a sliver of it ended up in Russia. Tsarist Russia. Let me see. It's funny because it was like right in the first couple of paragraphs of my second chapter on this. Let me just get this up real quick. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to be into actually reading this, but I thought it was funny that like
there are some books where I feel like you should not be reading it to people unless you want to torture them.
Yeah, and this one almost is cuter and better in a lot of ways than like, the Tavernier. I guess that's what they're calling the Hope Diamond in this. I've been 2 days by train to get from Monaco to St. Petersburg. The last time I had been here had been right before the revolution exploded. This is how my character starts this book, by the way. I had seen the signs and wanted nothing to do with it, so I had got out before it all went to hell. No pun intended. And
this is
really funny because there was no pun there anyway. So there's so many writing problems in here.
And anti-Russian revolution people disgust me.
I had never involved myself in mortal politics or wars. Too similar to hell. It hadn't occurred to me then that the Russian blue could have been responsible. To be honest, I hadn't. I think that's one of the jewel names that he's giving it. I think that the piece of a Hope Diamond split off in this book. I don't know. It's part of the universe of the book. I haven't really thought about it too much.
Oh wow.
The Hope Diamond is kind of an interesting story, and it's got a lot of weird cursed things about it.
Nothing is like King Tutankhamun's curse. Like there was this guy, this French guy who kicked his tomb, and boom, the next day his foot was like broken and it had been infected. These two players played cards over King Tutankhamun's tomb, and then they died of like a heart attack like 2 days later.
Yeah, it's also, you have to take those kind of stories with a grain of salt. It's like, and the Hope Diamond happened to these like, uber wealthy people. And I'm like, well, maybe they were just like really inbred and prone to hemophilia already. It's not,
yeah, that's true. But
might not have been the Rock that did it. And, people working in King Tut's tomb might not have been
the smartest.
Well, beyond smartest, best working conditions.
That's true. There could be like some fungus that infects them, and they probably didn't put those masks on.
Right. Yeah, if you're playing cards in the tomb, because you've got that kind of time, are you leaving the tomb to go eat outside in the fresh air?
And what kind of fungus has been festering in the walls in the past 4,000 years that you should probably not be breathing in?
Exactly. What kind of OSHA regulations were in place at the time? You gotta ask these questions.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. This was fun, and I will see you Monday. And this week, he edited the amazing Luna Oi, and we're with Vietnam. And we're going to continue our Victims of Communism series. So, anyways, thank you so much for. I'm so glad you slipped into my DMs about 2 years ago.
Is it 2 years or 4 years at this point? I feel like it was like 2017, 2018, maybe.
2018 is when you slipped into my DMs.
Yeah, I'm glad I did too.
Yeah. And he's been a great producer ever since.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, Privyet. No. I forgot. That's not Privyet is hello. До свидания.
Vidania.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so what? Apparently, my camera ran out of battery, even though I had been charging it all night. So now we have to use my cell phone, which I hope is clear enough. And c'est la vie. So, without further ado, unless we have some comments to read out, we're going to begin with this book. And the cool thing is, I bookmarked it last week on where we ended, unless this is backwards to you. Let me see if I can make it. Is this backwards or forwards? I can't tell anymore. So, are there any comments that we should read out? Oh, and any super chats. Why do Okay. No, there isn't. OSHA couldn't care less about you, at least here at the Midwest. I've dealt with them with the labor lawyer a couple of times now. Absolutely. OSHA's been totally watered down since it was created in 1969. And that's the purpose. It was kind of like I don't know how to explain it. Under a capitalist system, those kind of worker protections are always going to get watered down. Anyways, without further ado, unless I get a super chat, which I hope I'll get many, I will start reading. And also, the amount I read is directly related to how many super chats I get. So the more super chats I get, the longer I read. I don't know how to pronounce that word. Reminiscence of Lenin. Okay, let me get this mic nice and close to me, and you guys get nice and comfortable. I hope you guys put on your pajamas and brushed your teeth and lay down and relax while I read this to you while you go to bed. Connections with Russia grew apace. One of the most active correspondents of Iskra was the St. Petersburg worker Babushkin. Vladimir Ilyich had seen him before leaving Russia and made arrangements with him to send in correspondence. He sent in a mass of reports from Orekovo Zuyevo, Vladimir, Guskrustalny, Ivanovo, Voznesensk, Kokma, and Kineshma. He made a regular round of these towns and strengthened contacts with them. Letters also came from St. Petersburg, Moscow, the Urals, and the South. We corresponded with the Northern Union. The Northern Union of Russian Workers, or Northern Union as it was called, was an association of members of the social democratic organizations of Vladimir, Kostroma, and Yaroslavl. That's where Bernie went on his honeymoon. Later, Tver gubernias. Founded in 1900, the membership included Varentsova, Nokosov, Lubimov, and Karpov. The union was dispersed by the Tsarist police at the end of the summer of 1902. Okay. Noskov, a representative of the union, arrived from Ivanovo-Voznetsensk. A more Russian type it is difficult to imagine. Fair-skinned and blue eyes with a slight stoop, he spoke with a broad country accent and had arrived abroad with a small bundle to make all the necessary arrangement. His uncle was the owner of a small mill in Ivanovo-Voznetsensk and had given him money for the trip in order to get rid of his troublesome nephew, who was forever being run in and having his room searched by the police. Boris Nikolaevich Noskov, Babushkin's alias, his real name and patronymic being Vladimir Alexandrovich, was an experienced practical worker. I had met him in Ufa, where he had stopped over on his way to Ekaterinburg. He came abroad for contacts. Making contacts was his profession. I remember him sitting on the stove in our Munich kitchen, telling us with shining eyes about the work of the Northern Union. He was terribly enthusiastic, and Vladimir Ilyitch's questions only added fuel to the flames. Boris kept a notebook while he lived abroad, in which he meticulously wrote down all contacts, where this or that one lived, what he did, or how he could be useful. He left us that notebook afterwards. His work as an organizer had a poetic sort of quality. He over-idealized his work and people. However, he lacked the ability to face up to reality. After the Second Congress, he became a conciliator and later disappeared from the political scene. He died in the years of reaction. Hold on one second. Yeah. Babushkin was killed by the police. Lenin wrote an ode to Babushkin when he was killed. Other people came to Munich too. Struve had been there before my arrival. Things were already heading for a break with him. He later becomes a czarist. And that's who I predict AOC becomes. Struve. Pyotr Struve. Okay. Things were already heading for a break with him. He was passing over from the Social Democratic camp to the Liberal camp. On the occasion of his last visit, there had been a serious clash. Vera Zasulich had nicknamed him the book-fed calf. I like that nickname, the book-fed calf. Both Vladimir Ilyich and Plekhanov had given him up, but Vera Zasulich still thought there was some hope for him. We jokingly called her and Potrasov the Struve-Freundlich Partei, which means the Friends of Struve party in German. Struve visited Munich again, and when I was there, Vladimir Ilyich refused to see him. I went to see Struve at Vera's rooms. The interview was a very painful one. Struve felt terribly hurt. There was a Dostoevsky sort of touch about it. He spoke about being regarded as a renegade or some other things in a similar strain and acted the self-tormentor. I do not remember everything he said. I do remember the heavy feeling with which I came away from that meeting. Plainly, he was a stranger, a man hostile to our party. Vladimir Ilyich had been right. Afterwards, Struve's wife, Nina Alexandrovna, sent us her regards, a box of sweets through somebody. I don't remember now. She was powerless. I doubt whether she realized where her husband was heading or not. He knew, though. After my arrival, we lived in rooms at German working class home. We lived in rooms at a German working class home. There was a family of 6, and all lived in the kitchen in a tiny room, but everything was spotlessly clean. The children, too, were tidy and polite. I decided to put Vladimir Ilyich on the home-cooked food and tackle the pots and pans. I did the cooking in the landlady's kitchen, but prepared everything in our own room. I tried to make as little noise as possible because Vladimir Ilyich had begun to write what is to be done. When writing, he would usually pace swiftly up and down the room, whispering what he was going to write. I had already... This is actually very similar to my mode of working, too. Janet can tell. I had already adopted myself to his mode of working, and when he was writing, I never spoke to him or asked him any questions. Afterwards, when we went out for a walk, he would tell me what he had written and what he was thinking about. This became as much a necessity to him as whispering his article over to himself before putting it down in writing. I literally do this all the time. We went for long rambles in the outskirts of Munich, choosing the loneliest spots where there were fewer people about. A month later, we moved into a flat on our own in Schwabing, a suburb of Munich, in one of the numerous newly erected buildings. We got ourselves some furniture. We sold it all for 12 marks when we left. We now settled down to real home life. After lunch, which was at 12, Martov and others came to attend the so-called editorial meeting. Martov spoke without a stop, jumping from one subject to another. He read a lot and was always chock full of news. He knew everything and everybody. Martov is a typical journalist, Vladimir Ilyich often said about him. He's remarkably talented and quick at grasping things, terribly impressionable and easygoing. Martov was an indispensable man for Iskra. Those 5 to 6 hour talks every day were very tiring for Vladimir Ilyich. He used to feel quite ill after them and was unfit for work. He asked me once to go and see Martov and tell him not to come to us. We arranged that I would call on him myself and tell him what letters we had received and arrange everything with him. Nothing came of it. 2 days later, we were back again where we were. Martov could not live without these talks. From us, he would go to a cafe with Vera Zasulich, Dimka, and Blumenfeld. Blumenfeld set up Iskra first in Leipzig, then in Munich at the printing shops of the German Social Democrats. He was a splendid compositor and a good comrade, enthusiastic over his job. He was very fond of Vera Zasulich and always took good care of her. He did not get on with Plekhanov, NK, or Nadezhda Konstantovna. Yeah, that's what I think. Okay, whatever. Konstantovna, whatever. Okay. Afterwards, Dan arrived with his wife and children, and Martov spent most of his time with them. We went to Zurich in October to amalgamate with Rabochia Diallo. That means the workers' business. Nothing came of it. Then Akimov, Kichevsky, and others talked themselves silly. Martov worked himself up to such a pitch in his attack on Rabochia Diallo adherents that he even tore off his tie. I have never seen him like that before. Plekhanov scintillated. A resolution was drawn up to the effect that amalgamation was impossible. Dan read it out at the conference in a wooden voice. Papal Nuncio, his opponents shouted at him. This split was a painless one. Martov and Lenin had not collaborated with Rabochia Diallo, and strictly speaking, no break had occurred since there never had been any cooperation. On the other hand, Plekhanov was in high feather. The opponent he had been grappling with for so long was at last worsted. Plekhanov was cheerful and chatty. We lived in the same hotel, we had our meals together, and everything seemed to be going well. Only occasionally did a very slight difference in the approach to a certain question make itself felt. One conversation sticks in my memory. We were sitting in a cafe, and in the room next to ours, there's a gymnasium where fencing was in progress. Workers armed with shields and cardboard swords were engaged in a sham battle. Plekhanov laughed, saying, "That's how we shall fight under the new order." Going home, I walked with Axelrod. He developed the theme and touched on by Plekhanov. Under the new order, everything will be a deadly bore, he said. There will be no struggle. I was still painfully shy then and said nothing, but I remember being surprised at such an argument. After we returned from Zurich, Vladimir Ilyich sat down to finish what is to be done. Later, the Mensheviks vehemently attacked that pamphlet, but at that time it gripped everybody, especially those who were more closely associated with the Russian work. The pamphlet was an ardent appeal for organization. It outlined a broad plan of organization in which everyone could find a place for himself. Become a cog in the revolutionary machine, a cog which, no matter how small, was vital to the working of the machine. The pamphlet urged the necessity of intensive, tireless efforts to build a foundation that had to be built if the party was to exist in deeds and not in words under the conditions prevailing in Russia. A social democrat should not be afraid of long, hard work. He must work and work unremittingly and be ever ready for everything, from upholding the honor and prestige and continuity of the party in periods of acute revolutionary depression to preparing for and fixing the time for carrying out the nationwide armed insurrection. Vladimir Ilyich wrote in What is to be Done, Collected Works, Volume 5, page 481. let me stop to see if there's any comments. Yeah, the USSR will always be in our hearts. But do not despair. There's probably more people under socialism right now than there ever was. There's China, Vietnam, the DPRK, Laos, Venezuela, Bolivia, Cuba, and I'm probably forgetting quite a few states too. So the people's flag is, how does it go? I forget. The people's flag is something red. The people's flag is the deepest red because of all the martyred dead. Cowards may cheer. Wait. Traitors may cheer, cowards may jeer, but we'll keep the red flag flying here. Of course, India will always has a good chance because India has like 1 billion really, really poor people. It's just that the right things need to happen. I don't know what more to say than that. Okay. 27 years have passed since that pamphlet was written. What years? The condition for the party have changed completely, and entire new tasks confront the workers. Yet the revolutionary passion of this pamphlet is irresistible even today. It should be studied by everyone who wants to be a Leninist in deeds and words. Whereas the Friends of the People was tremendous significance in defining the path which the revolutionary movement had to take. What is to be done can be said to have defined a plan for extensive revolutionary activities. It pointed out a definite task. It is clear that a party congress was still premature, and that conditions capable of preventing it from coming to nothing as the first Congress had done were lacking, but the long preparatory work was necessary. The attempt by the Bund, Jewish Workers' League in Lithuania, Poland, and Russia, organized in 1897, mainly an organization of Jewish artisans in the western provinces of Russia. Bund was a vehicle of nationalism and separatism in the working class movement and held Menshevik views. And then a lot of them went to help form the other nation state that we shall not speak of. Therefore, to convene a congress in Belostok was not taken seriously by anyone. Dan went there from Iskra, taking with him a suitcase whose false lining was crammed with copies of what is to be done. The Belostok Congress turned into a conference. Vladimir Ilyich was particularly interested in the attitude of the workers to that pamphlet. He wrote to I. Radchenko on July 16, 1902. I was ever so glad to read your report about the talk with the workers. We receive such letters much too rarely. They are really tremendously cheering. Be sure to convey this to your workers with our request that they should write to us themselves and not just for the press, but to exchange ideas so that we do not lose touch with one another for our mutual understanding. Personally, I am particularly interested to know what the workers think of what is to be done. So far, I have received no comment from the workers. Lenin's collected work, volume 36, page 86. Oh my God, Lenin would have so been would so approve of us, all of us like shit posting and tweeting, and he'd so be tweeting with us. The USSR was, what it is the way it transformed. So look at India, Ethiopia, Bangladesh, any other third world country that has not gone communist. That used to be Russia. Look at Russia now. And I don't think people in the first world actually can understand the kind of oppressions people in the third world face. It's like hell on. There's like the concept of untouchability. I think I've touched on that, where basically if you're, even today it occurs in India in many places. I've seen it in big cities, where if you're of the quote unquote untouchable class, for example, I would not give you coffee like this if I was like this, if you were in the untouchable class. This is what would happen. They'd put it down here like that because you're untouchable. The untouchable person would then pick it up, and then the glass would be like an untouchable person's glass. Like, and there's so much, like that's just the open thing. And the reason why they have, like, for example, the reason why untouchability exists is that it's a great like tripwire for catching rebellion, because as long as people are obeying even the really stupid rules, you realize that there's no risk of a rebellion. But then these like really stupid rules are like a tripwire, where it's just like, oh my god, it's something to freak out over and get a crackdown. So yeah, I mean, for the most part, the USSR was just trying to survive, and they were minding their own business, and the US had a lot of projection. Yeah. I wish they were doing half the things they were accused of, but no. Anyway, so let me continue reading for a little bit longer, until I don't know how long I should read for. I guess I don't know how long I should. Okay, I'll continue to read for a little bit longer. Where was I? Iskra was going strong. Its influence was increasing. The party program was being prepared for the Congress. Plekhanov and Axelrod came to Munich to discuss it. Plekhanov attacked parts of the draft program which Lenin had drawn up. Vera Zasulich did not agree with Lenin on all points, but neither did she agree entirely with Plekhanov. Also, Axelrod also agreed with Lenin on some points. Meeting was a painful one. Vera Zasulich wanted to argue with Plekhanov, but he looked so forbidding, staring at her with his arms folded on his chest, that she was thrown off her balance. The discussion had reached the voting stage. Before the voting took place, Axelrod, who agreed with Lenin on this point, said he had a headache and had to go for a walk. Lenin was terribly upset, and to work like that was impossible. The discussion was so unbusinesslike. Organizing the work for a business on a business-like footing without introducing any personal element to it, and thus ensuring that caprice or personal relations associated with the past would not influence decision, had now become an obvious need. All differences with Plekhanov distressed Vladimir Ilyich greatly. He fretted and did not sleep at night. Plekhanov, on the other hand, was sulky and resentful. After reading through Vladimir Ilyich's article for the number 4 Zarya, Plekhanov returned it to Vera Zasulich with margin notes in it, which he gave full vent to his annoyance. When Vladimir Ilyich saw them, he was greatly upset. By this time, it was known that Iskra could no longer be printed in Munich. The owner of the print shop did not want to run the risk. We had to move. But where? Plekhanov and Axelrod were for Switzerland. The rest, after that whiff of the atmosphere that had prevailed during the discussion of the program, voted for London. We looked back on this Munich period afterwards as a bright memory. Our years of life in emigration were a much more distressing experience. During the Munich days, the rift in personal relations between Vladimir, Martov, Patrusov, and Zasulich had not been so deep. All energies had been concentrated upon a single object, the building up of an all-Russian newspaper. There had been an intensive rallying of forces around Iskra. All had the feel of the organization's growth, a sense that the path for creating the party had been rightly chosen. That explains the genuine spirit of jellification which We enjoyed during the carnivals the universal good humor that had prevailed during our trip to Zurich and so on. Local life held no great attraction to us. We observed it as merely as bystanders who went to meetings sometimes. On the whole, they were of little interest. I remember the May Day celebrations. For the first time that year, the German Social Democrats had been permitted to organize a procession on the condition that the celebrations were held outside of the town and no crowds collected within the town. Fairly large columns of German Social Democrats with their wives and children, pockets stuffed with horseradishes, marched swiftly through the town in silence to drink beer in a suburban beer garden. There were no flags, no placards, and that my fire bore very little resemblance to the demonstration of the working class triumph throughout the world. We did not follow the procession to the suburban beer garden, but dropped behind and roamed the streets of Munich, as it was our habit. In order to let the feelings of disappointment that had crept into our hearts wear off, we wanted to take part in a real militant demonstration and not a procession sanctioned by the police. As we were working in strict secrecy, we never met any of the German comrades except Parvis, who lived near us in Schwabing with his wife and little son. Rosa Luxemburg came to see him once, and Vladimir Ilyich went there to meet her. Parvis was an extreme left-winger. He contributed to Iskra and was interested in Russian affairs. We traveled to Lenin via Liege. Nikolai Meshcheryakov was living in Liege at the time with his wife, both old Sunday school friends of mine. I had known him as Narodia Volyat, and he had been the first to initiate me into illegal work. The first to teach me secrecy technique and help me become a social democrat by keeping me well supplied with foreign publications of the Emancipation of Labor group. But now he was a social democrat. He was living in Belgium for a long time and was familiar with the local movement. We decided to call him en route. There was a tremendous excitement in Liege at that time. Or maybe it's Liege or Liege, I know not. A few days previously, the troops had fired on the strikers. The ferment working class districts could be read in the faces of the workers and the people who stood about in knots. We went to see the People's House. It was very inconveniently situated, and any crowd standing in front of the building could easily be cooped up and trapped. The workers were flocking to it. To avoid a crowd gathering there, party leaders had arranged meetings in all working class districts. This gave rise to a vague mistrust of the Belgian Social Democratic leaders. It was very much like a division of labor, shooting at the crowd, others seeking to pacify it. And I guess this is the beginning of the next chapter, and since I'm losing my reading skills, I think we should I will mark this, and we shall come back next week for this to enjoy this book. I hope you guys are enjoying this reading, and hold on, or am I supposed to pull this pen out? Okay, I guess I'm not supposed to pull this pen out. So then how do I bookmark it? Okay, I'll just put I know, I'll put a hairpin in it. Okay, and thank you everyone for being part of this. We need to make this more fun, interactive, and have more people be part of it. And the best way is a word of mouth. Maybe make this into a party, invite friends over. I don't know. I miss all the social life from the Bernie years. Anyways, with that, I will say, I forgot my goodbye. Oh, Smrti fascisma and Slobodu narodu. Okay, bye-bye.